Hi and welcome to this video on the basic usage of Microsoft Azure Portal. We'll step through a number of components of it and take you through the basics of what you need to do to get your virtual machine up and running. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the Azure Portal page. I would like to have been able to show you the registration process, but as I've already registered for the virtual machine that was allocated to me, I'm unable to re-register that virtual machine. Regardless, the registration process should be fairly straightforward. You should simply need to provide your ECU student identification and credentials. And from there, you'll provide additional credentials, which are going to be the credentials for your virtual machine. If you have any problems, then please contact your unit coordinator and we can sort through those. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to navigate to the Azure Labs page. And as I've previously logged in, it'll take me straight through. You may need to provide your ECU student credentials. So here you can see this is the home page for the Azure Portal. And this lists all of your virtual machines that you have available to you. As you can see, I have one that's available to me. You may have more, but there is only one singular tile here. And this means that it is one virtual machine. You can see here the title or the name of the virtual machine, and it's been pre-allocated CSI 6199 Cybersecurity 2021. You can't change this. It's defined at creation time by your unit coordinator. You can see that there's a little Windows symbol there, so that indicates that this is a Windows virtual machine, and this icon here is synonymous with Windows 10. So it's a Windows 10 virtual machine. You can see here, this is the amount of hours you've consumed. I've used 2.2 hours out of my 50 allocated hours. At the completion of those 50 hours, you won't be able to start your virtual machine. So again, it's paramount that you turn your machine off when you've finished using it to conserve your allocated hours. Down the bottom of the tile, we can see a couple of things here. We can see the virtual machine state button. This is a radio button. Over here we have the connection. Over here we have the connection details to connect to your virtual machine, but that won't work until the machine is actually started and running. When connecting to a virtual machine, we're going to connect via a protocol called RDP, or Remote Desktop Protocol. RDP is a proprietary Microsoft protocol that allows connectivity to remote computers on a network somewhere, and that can be a LAN or a WAN, such as the internet. When connected, it will share your mouse and keyboard with the remote desktop, and in effect, you will be controlling the machine as though you are sitting in front of your desktop. There should be no difference. The RDP protocol has been ported to a number of operating systems, such as macOS, iOS, Android, and Linux, just to name a few. So this makes it possible for non-Windows computers to connect to a remote Windows desktop somewhere on the network. So now we're going to start our virtual machine, and as I discussed earlier, we're going to click the state radio button here, and this will toggle it on and toggle it off. And always you should come back to the portal homepage and ensure that this says stopped, so that you're not consuming any of your allocated hours. So we're going to click this to start it. So you can see that it's toggled to the right hand side and the status is changed to starting. Now be patient here, it may take up to 5 minutes for your virtual machine to start, and once it's started we will connect to it and I'll show you around. Okay, so you can see the state has changed from starting to running. We should now be able to connect to our virtual machine. You'll see on the right hand side of the tile that there's a little display icon. That's our RDP connectivity icon, and it's changed from grey to blue. This means it should be active, and we'll click on it now to connect to our virtual machine. You can see what's happened here is it's actually downloaded a file. It's called CSI 6199 Cybersecurity 2021, and I've downloaded it 4 times. As in I've connected to my virtual machine 4 times, so it keeps incrementing that number in the download directory, and you can see it's got a .rdp extension, meaning this is a configuration file for Remote Desktop Protocol. There are two ways that you can connect using RDP, and that is manually using the Remote Desktop connection interface, where you manually type in your IP address and username, etc. Or you can use the configuration file, which is provided to you as part of the virtual machine, and everything is pre-populated in terms of credentials and usernames and the like. So I'm going to click Open File. And you can see that it's going to pop open a little dialog window, and it's going to ask me for the credentials that you provided at the time of registration. This is not your ECU student identification. This is whatever password you gave it when you registered for this virtual machine. And it'll go away and try and connect to our remote that is starting up here. And this is our desktop for the virtual machine. This is exactly like any other Windows 10 desktop, and you can do exactly as you would with any other desktop that you would have had at your own home. You can see that they've got some applications. We can launch a browser, and we can go and navigate and do whatever we need to do. You can install, you can run, you can do whatever it is that you need to. It's just a normal desktop. When you've completed doing whatever it is you need to do with your virtual machine, again, you must ensure that you shut your machine down. It's written on the desktop here, but we can't emphasize it enough, because if you forget to turn your machine off, it will consume your allocated hours. There's two ways you can shut your machine down. You can see this end session icon here, and you can also go through the start menu, power button, and disconnect. I've clicked disconnect, but you'll notice we're back at the portal homepage. The status is still running. You must click that and make sure that it changes to stopped. Otherwise, your hours will continue to be consumed. I'm not going to shut mine off at this point, but I'm going to log back in, and I'll show you Hyper-V and a pre-populated virtual machine. So that is nested virtualization. I've got two screens here and it keeps popping up on the wrong screen. So I have to keep dragging it across, so you'll have to bear with me. Okay, so this is our desktop again. And you'll see the Hyper-V Manager icon here. Double click that to launch the Hyper-V Manager. And Hyper-V is Microsoft's version of virtualization. There are many types of virtualization providers out there. The three main ones are VirtualBox, VMware, and Microsoft Hyper-V. So your unit coordinator has already pre-built you a Kali Linux virtual machine that you're going to run within your Azure virtual machine. Again, this is nested virtualization. So you can see here, this is the Kali Linux 2020.4 version. Its state says off. In the details pane here, you can see under the notes that the username is student and the password is student for this virtual machine. Now that's important to note, because by default, when you get a virtual machine from the Kali website, the default is Kali Kali. So for those of you who have used Kali in the past, this is not the default password, and you need to remember that it's student. We're going to start the virtual machine by clicking start. The start button is here, and that has changed the state to running. And in the details pane here, you can see that the console image has changed. We can now connect to that, and we can see the machine boot up. So we'll click the connect icon here, and it will launch our console window. Now we can leave it as it is or go full screen, but either way, we can see our machine booting up. So our Kali Linux virtual machine has finished booting. We have a logon page and we'll enter our credentials, which was student with password student. And you can see I've got my desktop for Kali Linux and successfully logged on. And from here you can run any command as you would with your own virtual machine of Kali Linux on your own desktop. It is, for all intensive purposes, a fully fledged version of Kali Linux. Assuming that we've completed everything we need to do, we'll log off, we'll shut this down. You can see in the console it's turned off. And we will end session. This destroys our remote desktop. And it's taken me back to the Azure Labs Portal homepage. Again, you can see this is running. I can't stress enough, turn it off. Click the state button and it will change from running to stopping. And again, this will take a little while to shut down. Eventually it will say stopped. At that point, you know you're safe to leave the portal page. There have been instances where the portal page has timed out and automatically logged you off. You'll need to log back in again and just check the state of your virtual machine. Okay, so our virtual machine has finally stopped, and you can see that the state has changed to stopped and the radio button is back on the left. And at this point we are okay to assume that everything is all shut down and we can close it down and go about our merry way. The last thing I wanted to cover with you is that you may at some point choose to want to change your password for your virtual machine. Now this is for your virtual machine and not your ECU credentials. This is purely for logging into your virtual machine. To do this, you'll need to access the little sub-menu here on the right-hand side of the tile. You'll see 3 dots stacked vertically. When you click that, you'll be presented with a menu option that you can either reset password or show RDP information. So we're going to click on reset password and you'll be presented with another dialog box. You can see it's for the username student, which is what you would have been registered as. And this dialog box is for your new password, not your old one or your current one. This is for your new password. So we'll change it to something that is different to the one that I'm using, so you can see the way in which it'll change. I've changed my password, and then to complete that, we'll just click the reset password button. And that successfully changed my password. Okay, if you've managed to complete all of that and keep up with me as we were working through it, congratulations. And this is all I have for this video. Thanks.